Hello and welcome, I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching NewsX World. Let's first take a look at our top stories. Tensions between President Trump and Elon Musk have reached breaking point after Musk bashed Trump's big beautiful bill. Musk suggests without evidence that the president appears in unreleased files linked to late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Trump says the Tesla boss went crazy. Russia has launched drones and ballistic missiles at multiple targets in Ukraine, with Kyiv officials saying several residential areas of the capital have been hit, leading to at least 4 deaths. Deaths have also been reported in the Chernihiv region after Putin vowed to respond to Ukraine's Operation Spider's Web drone assault. President Donald Trump says he will visit China after speaking to their leader Xi Jinping over the phone. The White House confirmed the two had a very good talk amid heightened tensions after Trump launched a trade war with a series of reciprocal tariffs either way. Israel has launched strikes in Beirut's southern suburbs, saying it was targeting Hezbollah's drone production. The attack on Thursday night comes on the eve of Eid al-Adha and followed evacuation warnings for several buildings, despite a ceasefire that has been in place for 6 months. Meanwhile, Hamas have signalled they are ready to enter into new serious peace talks for a permanent ceasefire with Israel. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says that Israel has activated some clans in Gaza who are opposed to Hamas. A US judge has temporarily blocked Trump's entry ban on Harvard's international students. US District Judge Alison Burroughs rules that Trump's move would cause immediate and irreparable injury amid an ongoing spat between the US administration and the Ivy League school. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has announced that the US will impose sanctions on 4 judges at the International Criminal Court for illegitimate targeting of Israel and the US. Benjamin Netanyahu has thanked the Trump administration for the move. The judge presiding over Sean Diddy Combs' criminal trial has threatened to ban the music mogul from the courtroom for interacting with a member of the jury. Judge Aaron Subramanian called the actions absolutely unacceptable after Combs nodded and pulled faces. We start this hour in North America. Former allies Donald Trump and Elon Musk have turned their once public friendship into a bitter and escalating feud. The fallout between the US president and the billionaire entrepreneur unfolded in full public view, with personal attacks and political threats. Tensions boiled when Trump accused Musk of trying to sabotage the big beautiful bill due to its removal of electric vehicle tax credits. Following this, Elon Musk even revived the contentious conspiracy theory on the US president by connecting Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein. He claimed that classified government documents about Epstein's influential associates contain references to the Republican leader. However, Musk did not provide supporting evidence for his assertion and did not specify which files he was referencing. Musk, who was Trump's biggest campaign donor to the tune of around $300 million, separately claimed the Republican would not have won the 2024 election without his support and accused him of such ingratitude. Meanwhile, in retaliation, Trump hit Musk where it hurts, threatening Musk's multi-billion-dollar government contracts, including for launching rockets and for the use of the Starlink satellite service. As a result of this crossfire that finally relented after several hours, Tesla shares plunged more than 14%, wiping out approximately $152 billion in market value and costing Musk $8.73 billion in personal wealth, as per reports. We stay with US President Donald Trump, who's confirmed that a China trip will take place after his first positive phone call with Chinese leader Xi Jinping since returning to office. He announced that both countries will conduct trade talks to address issues related to tariffs and the global supply of rare earth minerals. Trump said on his social media platform that their respective teams will soon meet at a location to be determined, and that the call lasted over an hour and a half. The United States will have Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and US Trade Representative Jameson Greer represented in the negotiations. Trump, who began his second term in January, said Xi Jinping invited him and First Lady Melania Trump to China, and that he invited Xi to visit the United States. The Chinese Foreign Ministry confirmed that Trump initiated the call between the leaders. The ministry stated that Xi requested the removal of certain US measures against China. It also noted that Trump said the US welcomes Chinese students studying in America, despite the administration planning to revoke some student visas. Well, several developments overnight from this long-awaited and expected phone call between the US and Chinese leaders. Joining us to discuss all of the ramifications is Rabinder Sachdev, a foreign affairs expert. Rabinder, thank you ever so much for being here with us. Let's first look at this phone call itself. Of course, this in the midst of strained relations between China and the United States. How significant is this to geopolitics?
Thank you so much. A pleasure to be with you and your audiences. No, certainly it is. Very important to the global audiences, let's say, but more important equally to the people in the United States and to the people in China, right? Because these are the two principles involved. The two nations, as you said, are sparring with each other. Now, coming to the call, it said the call was about an hour and some 20-30 minutes. I would remind our viewers that typically there are interpreters used, right? She would probably be speaking in Chinese and Trump. So some good amount of time would have gone into the interpreting time also. So it's not that for 90 minutes, both of them are going back and forth, etc. So let's give some allowance for the interpreters also, maybe 30% of the time. Anyway, now that said, yes, it seems both sides raised complaints also. Trump raised the complaint that China was restricting the supply of the rare earth minerals and magnets and such. China complained that America was restricting its access to, of course, the semiconductor chips and all, and there are more sanctions now which restrict even some advanced software for chip making, etc., which were being constrained. Also, China complained or mentioned about Taiwan, that she has advised, Trump. I think the Chinese readout says that for the US to be prudent, whereas I think Trump did not mention Taiwan in his, comments on social media, whatever. And that's important because the US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was there for the Shangri-La dialogues in Singapore just the other day, and he was warning the gathering that there could be tensions and conflict with China in this region. So that said, both sides, I think stated their positions. But yes, it seems that there is some kind of invite. When Trump could visit, I think that's not said at all, and that's up in the air. But Trump could. But before that, there has to be some equilibrium to be reached between China and the US. And what that equilibrium point would be, what percentage tariffs of one against the other has to be seen. But still, in a systemic approach, if we see in the long term, the hurdles, or let's say the obstacles to trade between the two will remain and will grow even more. America has decided it doesn't want China to get overall leadership in technology. So America will keep on, pulling back or restricting. Already it has restricted hugely, supply and sales of semiconductors and software and hardware, not only from America, from Holland also, the ASML huge machine, which is the only one manufactured in Japan. So that would remain, but these two would reach some kind of a equilibrium to have a working relationship.
Yes, Rabinder, I want to single out geopolitics now. Of course, Taiwan has been a contentious issue between both nations, giving China's one China policy and the Trump administration reportedly being set to potentially provide more arms than they even did in Trump's first term to Taiwan. This situation, of course, is a developing one, but given the positivity that seemed to have come from both sides after this conversation, do you think that that issue will be slightly smaller now?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And in fact, there's another interesting point with that Taiwan. You see, this whole semiconductor chip manufacturing make in the US going back, etc. Taiwan is actually fearing that it may lose its importance as the semiconductor capital of the world in some years ahead. And as of now, the only insurance which Taiwan has in a way is the fact that it's the semiconductor factory of the world, right? That's why there is so much interest in making sure that Taiwan doesn't get, uh, flattened out. Now, if Taiwan's manufacturing of semiconductor chips and all, TSMC, by the way, has already committed $100 billion. They had a project of 60 billion during Biden. I think they've now raised to 100 billion. So if high-end chips start being made in the US, if the US succeeds in that, then exactly to your point, the importance or the relevance or the criticality of Taiwan would further reduce.
Yes, and Rabinder, I also want to bring in the foreign student element. Of course, China saying that there is going to be a lifting or an easing of pressure on Chinese students heading into the US. Of course, this in the wake of the Trump administration differences with Harvard University. This is a key topic and one we've discussed on the programme many times. Do you think the rhetoric that we're hearing is just that and it's rhetoric, or do you think there will be clear action from the US administration on Chinese students heading into the US?
I do think that there will be some clear action by the US regarding Chinese students. It's beyond rhetoric. The point being that even Trump, okay, after this conversation said that, yeah, we welcome Chinese students, right? I think he said something like that. But he said, but we'll have to, if he didn't use the word filter, we'll have to see, we'll have to check their background or something, he said. Essentially, point being that given the Chinese system of communism, almost everyone is a member of the Communist Party. If not everyone, a large number are, just for the sake of their normal lives. Being a member of the Communist Party is the right thing to do. So many of these students who are coming into the US are members of the Chinese Communist Party. Maybe not many of them were active or very active in the party, but they were, let's say, registered members of the party. So if the US wants to filter out students with connections to the party, then in any case, several Chinese students would face the axe.
Yes, and Rabinder, I want to bring an end to this discussion by looking at Donald Trump himself. We know he's held direct conversation with other world leaders, Keir Starmer, Volodymyr Zelensky. He's also spoken, of course, with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Trump, as we know, flip-flops. There is threats, then there's conversations. There's a warming, ties warm, and then they get colder. Do you think that this is just for show and this is Trump going forward with a relationship and we might see further action against China in the near future, or is this really a moment of significance for US-China relations moving forward?
I do not think it is that significant a moment because, as you very rightly said, or it seems, Trump meanders. Trump can go ahead one step, back two steps, ahead two steps, sideways one step. He can play all kinds of tango or, on the dance floor that we could expect. So this is definitely important, but it's not a significant, game-changing point and all. Another point, by the way, China, when it wants to negotiate, it goes with a team of bureaucrats who've done their, homework with the counterpart bureaucrats in the other country. And then when both countries' teams have come to a common understanding, it is then when she steps up, and actually many leaders. In the case of Trump in the US, what's happening, and that's why I think many leaders are kind of stumbling when dealing with Trump. Trump wants to deal himself. So a world leader who wants to have a meeting or there has to be a summit between Trump and the leader, Trump says, come, we'll sit, we'll discuss, I will discuss. Whereas the other leader, let's say he would not come to a meeting unless his subordinates have, done the homework and they've come to a point, okay, these would be the talks which will be held by the other party, everything choreographed. and now you go into the meeting, right? That's how most world leaders operate. That the groundwork, homework has been done by the teams of both the leaders. The leaders meet to finalize, cross the T's, dot the I's. But here, Trump has a different approach to negotiating. He says and feels that, okay, you, Mr. Xi Jinping, come, we'll sit down and we'll talk. That's where the problem is.
Rabinder Sachdev, thank you ever so much for providing insight there. We will, of course, look ahead to a potential visit from Trump or Xi to the respective other country, and those trade negotiations, of course, will continue. But we now move to Europe. In the latest development, the Russian Defense Ministry claims its forces have shot down 174 Ukrainian drones in a massive overnight air defense operation. Meanwhile, Russia launched drones and ballistic missiles at multiple targets across Ukraine. As per reports, residential areas of the capital, Kyiv, have been hit and at least 4 people have been killed. The head of the Kyiv City Military Administration, Timur Tukashenko, has accused Russia of hitting residential areas, saying a high-rise building, the Solomyansky district of Kyiv, was damaged in the attack. The Russian missile attack on Ukraine comes days after Ukraine's security service launched a series of daring large-scale drone attacks deep inside of Russia, striking airfields and hitting multiple military aircraft, including some of its prized nuclear-capable heavy bombers. Heading back to North America, in the latest development in the US-Harvard dispute, a judge has blocked President Trump's attempt to bar foreign students from Harvard. US District Judge Alison D. Burroughs ruled that without a restraining order, the university would suffer immediate and irreparable injury before all parties have a chance to be heard. This followed Harvard's decision to include President Trump's proclamation banning new foreign students from entering the United States in its ongoing lawsuit against the administration, alleging retaliation. In an amended complaint filed in federal court, Harvard stated this is not the administration's first attempt to cut Harvard off from its international students. It forms part of a targeted and escalating campaign of retaliation. Moving on now, Yemen's internationally recognised government expressed deep concern and regret on Thursday over the US travel ban on Yemeni citizens and called on Washington to reconsider the decision. This, according to state media. The official Yemeni news agency, Saba, reported that the government urged the US administration to reconsider this decision and to exempt Yemeni citizens from it, citing the difficult humanitarian conditions faced by the Yemeni people and referencing America's long-standing values. The statement followed an announcement from the White House that President Donald Trump had signed a new travel ban targeting nationals from 12 countries, including Yemen. The proclamation stated that Taliban-ruled Afghanistan, along with Libya, Sudan, Somalia, Yemen, lacked competent central authorities to process passports and conduct proper vetting. Moving on now, the International Criminal Court has strongly condemned new sanctions imposed by the United States. The US announced designations against 4 ICC judges from Benin, Uganda, Peru and Slovenia just weeks after targeting the ICC's chief prosecutor, Karim Khan. The ICC called these sanctions a direct attack on its independence and its global mission to deliver justice for victims of war crimes and genocide. Court officials warn that the move threatens not just individuals but the entire rule of law and efforts to hold perpetrators accountable. The court said it remains undeterred and will continue its mandate under the Rome Statute to serve victims worldwide, despite growing political pressure. We head to the Middle East now, and a series of Israeli airstrikes have hit Beirut's southern suburbs. This comes after the IDF said it would target underground Hezbollah drone factories. Plumes of smoke were seen billowing from the Lebanese capital shortly after huge numbers of people had fled the area, clogging the roads with traffic. As per a Lebanese news agency, nearly a dozen strikes were launched, including 2 which were very violent. Following the renewed attack, Lebanon's leaders accused Israel of a flagrant ceasefire violation by launching strikes against Hezbollah in southern Beirut. Prime Minister Nawaf Salam also issued a statement condemning the strikes, which came despite a November 27 ceasefire that sought to end more than a year of hostilities with Hezbollah. Heading back to North America now, the criminal trial against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs has taken a sharp turn. The judge presiding over the case warned Combs he could be removed from court for making faces and nodding at the jury, behaviour he called absolutely unacceptable. Combs is facing multiple charges including sex trafficking and racketeering. He has pleaded not guilty and denied all allegations. New testimony came from a woman using the pseudonym Jane, who dated Combs between 2021 and his arrest in 2024. She described being swept into a lavish but dark relationship, one she claims included pressure to participate in sexual encounters with escorts and drug use. She told the court that she often felt obligated to comply, especially after Combs began paying her $10,000 a month for housing. Meanwhile, Brianna Bongolan, a friend of Combs' ex Cassie Ventura, faced intense cross-examination. She accuses Combs of lifting her onto a balcony railing and throwing her into furniture. Defence attorneys questioned inconsistencies and pointed to Combs' schedule that week in 2016. Prosecutors responded with a text from Cassie Ventura's phone detailing the incident and backing up the claim. More testimony is expected. Heading now to the Indo-Pacific, North Korea has righted a capsized destroyer and moored it at a pier in northeastern port of Chongjin. Leader Kim Jong-un calls this new warship a significant asset for his nuclear-armed military, and the country continues to repair it. The Korean Central News Agency says experts will examine the ship's hull before they start the next phase of restoration. Workers will move the ship to a dry dock at the nearby port of Rajin, where repairs will last 7 to 10 days. Satellite images taken today show the destroyer floating upright, while the damage remains unclear. Pyongyang appears ready to transport the ship to the next port for electronic inspection. Moving on now, after 11 fans were crushed to death in India's Bangalore city during celebrations for Royal Challengers Bengaluru for the team's IPL victory. 2 people have been arrested in the case. Nikhil Sasal, the marketing head of the Royal Challengers Bengaluru, and Sunil Matthew of event management company DNA at the Kembagwada International Airport. 2 people have also been taken into custody over their involvement in the case as per the Indian police. Hundreds of thousands packed the streets in the southern city of Bengaluru on Wednesday to welcome home their hero Virat Kohli and his RCB team after they beat Punjab Kings in the final of the Indian Premier League. But the euphoria of the vast crowds ended in disaster when 11 mainly young fans died in a stampede near the M. Chinnaswamy Stadium, where the players were parading the trophy. This has sparked widespread anger across the country. Top police officers, including the city's police commissioner, have since been suspended. Moving on now, 3 soldiers and 2 police officers have been killed in a suspected jihadist attack in northwestern Benin. The attack on a police station in Tenugu on Wednesday night follows a wave of Islamist violence in Benin, its northern neighbours Niger and Burkina Faso and Mali further west. A military source said there were 5 dead, 2 police and 3 soldiers, adding that defence and security forces are continuing to search the area. One local in Tenugu, which lies on the edge of the Penjari National Park and attracts visitors to its forest waterfall, confirmed the incident but could not give a death toll. There were no immediate comments from the Benin authorities. North Benin, which borders both Niger and Burkina Faso, has seen a recent rise in attacks on army positions. In mid-April, 54 soldiers were killed in the Benin section of W National Park, which straddles the porous border with Niger and Burkina Faso, in an attack on 2 military posts. Heading back to the Indo-Pacific now, a Japanese company says its unscrewed moonlander likely crashed during a touchdown attempt today, marking a second failure 2 years after its first mission. iSpace's second lunar lander, Resilience, failed to slow down enough as it approached the moon. The company lost contact with the craft after what it believes was a hard landing. The live stream of the landing showed flight data cut off less than 2 minutes before touchdown. CEO Takeshi Hakamada told reporters they assume the lander crashed on the moon. Let's listen in.
時点におきまして、ランダーとの通信の回復が見込まれず、月面着陸を確認するミッション2マイルストーンサクセス9の完了が困難と判断するとともに、ミッション2の終了を判断したことをお知らせいたします。予定されていた月面着陸に必要な速度まで十分に減速ができていなかったことが確認されております。これらの状況から当社のランダーは最終的に月面へハードランディングした可能性が高いと現時点では推測をしており。
Well, iSpace had hoped to join US companies in making a commercial moon landing. Success would have made them the first non-US company to land on the moon. South Korea's new president, Lee Jae-myung, has marked his first official appearance at the country's 70th Memorial Day ceremony. At the event held yesterday, he paid tribute to the nation's fallen heroes. In his address, President Lee stayed away from politics and stressed the importance of a peaceful, war-free nation. He vowed to support Korean War veterans and their families with stronger welfare and recognition. Lee assured that his administration would fulfill its duty to honour their sacrifices. The ceremony comes just 2 days after Lee's inauguration on June the 4th, the same day he was elected. He's already moving quickly, nominating candidates for Prime Minister and key cabinet roles. Well, that's all we have time for. We'll continue to bring you more of the latest breaking international news.